Hello. I'd like to talk to you a little bit about Greek tragedy, its origins, and then the question of the Prometheus Bound, whether the play is by Aeschylus. So, first of all, Greek tragedy is an Athenian creation. There is no Greek drama, either tragedy or comedy, prior to the Athenians developing it in the 5th century BCE. So that's the 400s. It's thought that Greek tragedy originated as an offshoot of a poetry form called a dithyramb. So a dithyramb is a choral poem. And so it would be a poem that would be sung by basically a choir or a chorus. And that these dithyrambs were poems in honor of Dionysus. So drama is connected with with Dionysus, the theater god. He's also the god of wine. And the dithyramb was thought to be performed there originally with poems about Dionysus, about his various adventures, and that the chorus would sing the song. At some point, one of the chorus members broke off from the chorus and played the part of Dionysus. And so Dionysus would interact with the chorus in the telling of the story. Over time, a second actor would appear, and so the two actors could interact, or either or both of them could interact with the chorus. And then finally, a third actor was added. Now, there are more than 3 roles in any Greek tragedy, but however many roles there are, they are divided among 3 actors who perform all the roles. They're wearing masks, so it's easy enough for them to do that. Over the course of time, plays were about all sorts of things, not just about Dionysus. And in fact, one of the statements made about theater at the end of the 5th century, BCE, was, what does all this have to do with Dionysus? Because it was performed at the festival of Dionysus, in the theater of Dionysus, and yet we only have one play that's really about Dionysus, the Bacchae, which we'll talk about when we get to the chapter on Dionysus. So there's this movement, but all the plays that we have, with the exception of one play called The Persians by Aeschylus, deals with myth. The Persians deals with a historical event, the Persian invasion of Greece, and their defeat by the Athenians and the Spartans. So that's the sort of setup, where tragedy and comedy come from. It also seems to be why the chorus is so important in the plays, because why don't they just have the actors act among one another? And later plays that were written in the 4th century and later, dispense with the chorus entirely, and they just have actors act out the play the way we would expect to see a play today. But if you think of musicals often have songs that are sung by the entire cast, right, by the ensemble, and that really sort of is an offshoot of what the Greeks had with the chorus. The chorus would sing and dance their choral passages, but they would also then interact with the characters in the play. So the play that we're looking at this section. We're looking at basically the opening third of a play called The Prometheus Bound. It is traditionally ascribed to Aeschylus, but there are scholars who believe, and I think their arguments are pretty convincing, that this play is not by Aeschylus. Now, if it's not by Aeschylus, why is it attributed to Aeschylus? Well, some people think that it might be by one of Aeschylus' sons, who also wrote plays, but we don't have any works by. Such a figure would likely have his plays grouped with his father's, and over time, when the number of plays that are copied gets whittled down, it might very well happen that one of these plays by a son of Aeschylus could get grouped into Aeschylus's works. Now, why do we think that this is not by Aeschylus, or what's the reasoning? It has to do with how dark the play is. Aeschylus's plays tend to present the gods in a very positive light, and this play does not, or at least it does not present Zeus in a very positive light. Now, to give you the counter argument, what might we say where we could say, well, it is by Aeschylus? The play seems to be part of a trilogy. Aeschylus did write in trilogies. The other tragedians we know of did not. Every tragedian had to produce 4 plays for the festival. Anyone who was competing had to have 4 plays, and they would have a whole day of just their plays, 3 tragedies and a satyr play. Aeschylus seemed to like to make his 3 tragedies connected and to do one storyline, so one big story arc over 3 plays. The other tragedians seem to have done 3 separate plays, maybe on a common theme, like betrayal or war or love, right? So they might pick a particular theme and then have 3 plays on that theme. But this play by Aeschylus, or this play, The Prometheus Bound, does seem to be part of a trilogy. It ends with a sort of a cliffhanger. Hermes shows up. Prometheus refuses to help Hermes or help Zeus, and Hermes calls the mountain to collapse on Prometheus. Plays over. Well, that's not where any Greek tragedy that we have ends. The ones that are single plays have some sort of resolution at the end. They don't end like on this like dramatic moment. So this seems to be not a play by itself, but must be part of a greater whole. And it's unlikely that it would be part of 2 plays together with a third play that's not related. It's more likely part of a trilogy, in which case the likelihood is that the first play was Prometheus the Firebringer, which tells the story of the theft of fire. The second play is Prometheus Bound, which we have. We don't have Prometheus the Firebringer. And then the third play was Prometheus Unbound, where Prometheus is released. And there are hints in the Prometheus Bound that Zeus, who is very tyrannical in this play, will mellow. And given the fact that Aeschylus, it tends to be a very pious sort of playwright. He seems to honor the gods. He's not skeptical like Euripides. That is why people think, that's the biggest reason why people think this is not by him. The language is also a little bit off from the rest of Aeschylus, but again, in the case of Aeschylus, if we include the Prometheus Bound as one of Aeschylus's plays, we only have 7 plays, which means other than the Prometheus Bound, we only have 6 plays. Well, 6 plays, if any of them are anomalies, they're not going to quite fit a pattern, and therefore, it's quite possible that Prometheus Bound is just one of Aeschylus's plays, but sort of an anomaly. We don't know. But we do get a very dark vision here. Zeus is basically presented as the type of tyrant that the Athenians threw out when they instituted democracy. And Prometheus is presented as a figure really almost like an ideal democratic figure who does what he does for the people. So we get the opening of the play, and we get Prometheus's big long speech about how great he is to the chorus. Those are the sections that we have from the play. The play as a whole is worth reading, and you can certainly find it on the Perseus website. There are other sources that you can get. There are translations that I could recommend if you're interested. But it is a play worth reading. It is a fairly unusual play, and I've seen a performance of it. It's a very demanding play for whoever plays Prometheus. And in fact, on YouTube, you can actually see there is a performance of the Prometheus Bound done by some college where they basically have Prometheus sort of tied to something like a big chain link fence, but he's far off the ground, and he's basically chained there. So you get sort of this figure of like a crucified god. But, the play is 70 to 80 minutes long, and for you to have to sort of maintain a stationary position for that length of time is extremely difficult, coupled with the fact that you can't use your limbs at all to emote. And the ancient Greeks were wearing masks, so you have none of the tools other than your voice to express emotion. So it would be a very demanding role. That's it for now, and I may be back with something from Chapter 4.